Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Tuesday topic. Today's topic is the match game, using recruitment platforms to find research participants. And our presenters today are Dahlia Stott and Brandy-Joe Milliron, both with nutrition sciences. So without further ado, let me throw it over to Dahlia Stott, who is a PhD candidate in nutrition sciences and research coordinator. Dahlia, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. As was mentioned, my name is Dahlia. I'm a PhD candidate in nutrition sciences, and I'm here today with my mentor, Dr. Brandy-Joe Milliron. I'm an associate professor. I'm here at Drexel, and we're excited to talk to you guys today about using recruitment platforms to find research participants. We will have some discussions, and we'd like to hear from you as we're going through this presentation. But if you do have a question during our presentation, please jot it down, and we'll have a time for Q&A at the end. So I will pass it over to Dr. Milliron.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Dahlia. Welcome, everyone. We're excited to share some of the things that we've learned through this process and engage with you about recruitment for research. So participant recruitment is one of the most important aspects of a research study, and also arguably perhaps the most dreaded. So our challenge for you today is to consider shifting how you think about participant recruitment from something dreaded to something embraced for the opportunity to maximize research quality. To help us along on this journey, we'll focus on the ways we can optimize participant recruitment by utilizing one or more online recruitment platform. Now, with that in mind, we have 3 goals for our time together today. We'll describe what online research platforms are and how they can support our research, your research. We'll highlight 4 specific recruitment platforms, providing an overview, sampling capabilities, and the pros and cons of each platform. And lastly, we'll provide some key strategies for quality control. But before we dive into all of this, we'd like to hear from you using the chat function. So using the chat, please share up to 3 of your biggest recruitment challenges, and we'll give you a few moments to do so. So maybe you have 1, maybe you have 2, we'd love to hear what you kind of perhaps struggle with or what makes you a little bit anxious about recruitment. And while people are thinking, Dahlia, maybe I'll ask you this question to get us kicked off or to kick us off. What are some of the things that you find challenging about participant recruitment?
For me, it's just finding people who are even interested in research. Research studies take time, and especially for in-person data collection, the time to get to our office, to be there, and then to travel home can sometimes be a big barrier to even just gauging interest. So that's my biggest recruitment challenge that I've seen.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm seeing participant retention. Thank you, Sona. Detecting fraudulent participants. So we will talk about quality control. Dahlia has created a process that we use and that we're sharing with others that really helps that part. I'm seeing communicating to other students, like undergraduates, that recruitment takes a lot of work, right? And the benefits may not be immediately realized. Absolutely. Establishing a recruitment pipeline and where to begin. That is such a great idea, topic. And then the time burden. Absolutely. Thanks, Suma. Wonderful. So, and reaching relevant participants. Absolutely. Thank you. Now, each of the platforms we'll discuss today have different capabilities and strengths. And some of those strengths and capabilities are going to directly address the challenges that many of you have mentioned. So we'd like to also be able to highlight what those are. And so our second question for you to consider is, what type of recruitment support would be most helpful for you? Again, I'll give you some time to think about a couple examples of what maybe might be the most helpful during your participant recruitment. And one of the challenges, which is, reaching relevant participants or interested participants, could also be turned around. And that's sort of the support that you might need, right? So connecting, study coordinators, a participant registry. And that, it's interesting you mentioned that, because one of the platforms that we'll discuss today is Qualtrics. And we often think about Qualtrics in terms of its survey capabilities, but they also have various platforms that, and sort of a suite of services that we can use. And so Qualtrics is one to potentially keep on your radar, because they do offer more robust support, and it's expensive, but they do offer more robust support. So I'll let you keep on thinking about those. Get coordination with research teams. So we're not all independently contacting the same senior centers and such. That's a really good point. And that's again something that potentially some of these platforms could help with. And Sona mentions referrals here. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. So to give a bit of a broad overview here, online research recruitment platforms, as everyone knows, right, are digital platforms that typically are used to connect researchers with potential participants for their studies. These platforms typically allow researchers to post details about their studies, such as the purpose, the criteria for participation, and any incentives offered if it's not already a part of the platform. Now, potential participants can then browse these listings and volunteer to take part in studies that interest them, or that pay what they want them to pay, and so on. In our perspective, and we are doing a little bit of reflection here, these platforms we think can potentially help researchers in several ways. Now, online recruitment platforms can provide access to a wide range of potential participants, including those from diverse demographic backgrounds, residing in different geographic locations, who are experiencing different health conditions, and so on. And then another potential benefit is that recruiting participants online can often be faster and more efficient than traditional methods such as flyers or in-person recruitment. I know Dahlia is, neck deep in in-person recruitment for a different study, and so it is very time intensive and so on. So researchers can typically reach a larger audience quickly and receive responses from interested individuals in a far more timely manner. And Dahlia will probably share a little bit about the timeliness for her dissertation study, and so give you some examples of how quickly you can reach participants. Now, compared to traditional recruitment methods, online platforms can sometimes be cost effective. And I say sometimes, and that really depends on the company or the platform that you are working with and what you need in terms of support. So obviously, the more support you need typically is the more it's more expensive. Also, the more specific your sort of the eligibility criteria, often the more expensive. And Dahlia will go into greater detail for each of these platforms in those terms. Now, the online platforms that we've used and are familiar with will allow researchers to specify criteria for participant eligibility, such as age, gender, location, or specific characteristics that are relevant to your study. Some of them will also allow purposive sampling strategies. And again, Dahlia will speak more about that, because it's a strategy we often implement when we're doing mixed methods or qualitative research. And then the last point that I'll make here is about flexibility. Researchers can often customize their recruitment messages and materials with these online platforms, and that might allow them to tailor their approach to different audiences, for example. We'll show you some examples of the advertisements that BuildClinical has developed for 2 research studies that we are partnering with them on. So overall, online research recruitment platforms offer researchers a convenient and efficient way to connect with potential participants. In our experience, the most effective platforms are not free, and so that's certainly something to consider. Now, most of these platforms leverage social media or crowdsourcing. In short, Crowdsourcing involves leveraging online communities and platforms where individuals contribute to the research efforts, while social media advertisements focus on social networking platforms to promote research studies and engage with potential participants. Now, both have their advantages and can be effective depending on the nature of the study and the target population. And I know Dahlia's mentioned something in the past that companies who use social media and advertisements to help us with recruitment already have algorithms in place where they can reach potential participants quickly. Whereas if we as researchers posted the studies on social media ourselves, we'd have a more limited reach. And so that's something to consider when you think about, do I want to budget support using an online recruitment platform, or how much time would it take me just to do it myself? Now, these services can be used to recruit for a variety of studies and not just cross-sectional. So we often think about cross-sectional studies, but in fact, we can partner with these platforms to recruit for longitudinal studies, intervention studies, and mixed method studies. Now, depending on the recruitment platform, the activities completed for your study can be completed online or in person. And then the last point I'll make on this slide is that it's important to note that for platforms that recruit and will conduct your studies and provide more support, any collection of personal identifiable information will cost more. So there are some things that we, will highlight throughout this presentation that change the price point. And some of it was just a little bit surprising to us. Now, before we discuss the recruitment platforms, I want to highlight some key questions that you'll want to ask yourself to narrow down which platforms you'll choose to use. First, timing. How quickly do you want to recruit participants? What is your timeline? How much control do you want to have over recruitment and/or data collection? Who do you want to recruit, and will you need to implement purposive sampling? What is the format of your study, and what type of information do you need to collect? And then finally, what is the budget for your study? Certainly, this is not an exhaustive list of questions that you'll need to ask, but these are some that we've focused on, and we'll address each of these in the coming slides. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Dahlia to take us through some specific examples of online recruitment platforms. Dahlia.
Great. So the 4 recruitment platforms that we're going to talk about today are Research Match, Qualtrics, BuildClinical, and Cloud Research. These are platforms that either we've used or we've researched, especially for my dissertation. And so we have a lot of insights into these different platforms. But I'd also like to hear from you all if you have used any of these platforms before, or if you have used a different one, please share those as well.
All right, so Sona is mentioning that she has used Qualtrics. Right. Research Match from Kristen. Give folks a few moments. Yep, Research Match. Mimad. Just Qualtrics, okay. So we see mostly Research Match and Qualtrics. So it'll also be really interesting, for you to learn about Cloud Research and BuildClinical. Excellent. Thanks so much.
So many of you, as we see in the chat, have heard of Research Match, and this platform is widely advertised within our college. So I'm not surprised that most people have heard about this. Research Match is solely a recruitment service. It has a list of individuals who are interested in participating in research. When you go into the site and are recruiting, you can filter the list of individuals by location, demographics, health conditions, and medications. This allows you to utilize purposive sampling. I want to just note that with the location filter, you can do locations by state. So if you're wanting to Look at individuals who live in Pennsylvania. That would be a great filter for you to use. And if you are doing in-person study activities and you want to find individuals who live within a certain radius of the health sciences building, that research has that ability to. Once you do have your list of individuals that are potentially eligible for your study, Research Match will send them an email, such as the one screenshotted below. In this email, individuals can release their contact information to you. And optionally, you can integrate a red cap survey that can be used to screen your individuals. It's important to note that your study and the recruitment message must be IRB approved before you can even set up your study on Research Match. In this slide, I've included a link that tells you more about Research Match. And we have a resident expert of Research Match here, Dr. Arun Ramakrishnan. He has a plethora of information and knowledge about Research Match. Next slide, please. Some pros about Research Match are that you can recruit for online or in-person study activities. Many of the individuals that are on this platform already know how to participate in a study, so there's not much of a learning curve as far as what is a consent form, how do you complete a survey online, etc. And then finally, Research Match does take steps to verify identity. Despite this, you will still need to be mindful of the individuals you are recruiting. Unfortunately, some individuals do falsify their identity to participate in studies. So I'll talk about how you can circumvent that issue later on in the presentation. In addition, Research Match is primarily comprised of highly educated white women. So it's important that you take that into account in your sampling strategy. That is something that we hear time and time again when we use Research Match. That's a limitation to the platform. Research Match is free to use as it's funded by the NIH, and there's no requirement to pay participant incentives. In fact, as a participant on the database, I don't see many studies that are paying their participants. So any compensation is greatly appreciated, and you probably would have more engagement than if you didn't pay incentive. So we've used Research Match in multiple of our studies in the community nutrition lab. My experience with it has been that it's like casting a wide net. Most recently, for my dissertation, I needed to recruit 300 participants. I sent emails to over 8,500 potential individuals that may have been eligible. Of that number, 621 released their contact information to me. 372 of those were eligible, and then I was able to get in contact and send consent to almost 200, but not all 200 did complete the study. Next slide. Qualtrics, we all know as the platform that facilitates online survey data collection, but Qualtrics also provides a suite of services that are available for recruitment, ranging from simply recruiting the participants to running and managing your study. In Qualtrics, participants are recruited from various sources, including website intercept recruitment, member referrals, targeted email lists, gaming sites, customer loyalty web supports, permission-based networks, and social media. Qualtrics offers two primary methods for recruitment support. The first is Qualtrics Panels, which draws from social media, groups, email lists, and others to create a sample that would participate in your study. And then the second is Respondents on Demand, where you can purchase access to millions of respondents to collect feedback from participants who fit your inclusion criteria. You can also partner with Qualtrics and they can run your study with this option. The pros to Qualtrics is that the identity is verified by a third-party company. Again, you may want to double-check their identity by contacting them. Again, I'll go into that. Qualtrics can be more expensive depending on which which recruitment support product you choose. And the more involved research, such as linking out to multiple sites, having multiple activities that your participants are going to do, seems to be a little bit less feasible. But with Qualtrics, you are going to be paying a base fee to them, which will cover the recruitment, the data collection if you choose that service, and then the participant incentive also. So when participants do your study, they are offered a certain incentive. So you can see in this screenshot here, this participant, Katie, is being offered 145 award value points. And that could be Sky Miles, that could be points at their favorite retail outlet, or cash or gift cards. It really just depends on where that participant is being surveyed from and what they agree upon. So you pay a base fee, and Qualtrics takes care of the incentive structure for you. Next slide, please. BuildClinical is a site that runs online advertisement campaigns to recruit for research studies. Once people click on their ads, like the one on the bottom left, they are brought to a landing page where they can learn more about the study and complete a screening survey. You can see that here on the right-hand side. On the researcher side, you can log into the site and see who has completed the screening survey and if they are qualified. If you want to purposefully sample, you can filter the responses for the individuals. Next slide, please. This is another example of an advertisement campaign and the landing page for another study that we are doing. This is for a waste prevention study. And so you can see they use some really interesting graphics and some really engaging pictures. And so they have great engagement. You can see this on the next slide. So this is the analytics from my dissertation. Again, I needed to recruit 300 individuals. I was also using Research Match. So I was using BuildClinical and Research Match for recruitment. The advertisement campaigns on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram made 4,362 impressions. Of all of those impressions, there were 704 clicks on the ads, which led to 571 leads, of which 550 were eligible. Again, I wasn't able to get in contact with all of these individuals, but this was a great recruitment rate. And we completed recruitment in 2 months, I want to say. And so just in 2 months, we got over 500 leads from BuildClinical. Generally, since this platform is pulling from the general internet, you can recruit for online or in-person activities and reach individuals who may not typically participate in research studies. Unfortunately, because this platform is pulling from the general internet, you're not able to identify or to verify individuals' identities. So you'll need to do that yourself, or the site won't verify their identity. BuildClinical's cost is based on a monthly fee, and this fee is determined by various factors, such as who you want to recruit, the number of individuals you want to enroll per month, or the recruitment rate, and if there are any special health conditions that you're looking for, looking to enroll. Just to be clear, a higher recruitment rate will be more expensive. So you'll want to specify with BuildClinical how many months you want the recruitment campaign to go on. But you can always cancel the service if you meet your recruitment goal before recruitment ends, or if you're unsatisfied with the recruitment rate. Next slide, please.
I think I'll just add one thing on the previous slide, just so that everyone realizes, because I thought this was really helpful. When Dahlia is showing these advertisements, you share with BuildClinical sort of some keywords, what the study is about, and they send you a bunch of different examples of illustrations that they think would be really feasible for recruitment. And then you work with them to tailor them. So that's sort of what we were referring to a little bit as flexibility, but it's also, you don't have to be a graphic designer to, have these beautiful advertisements for the study. And so I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was something pretty unique on in terms of a recruitment partner.
Thank you so much for adding that in. And then our last platform that we're going to talk about today is Cloud Research. This is a platform that recruits and facilitates data collection. Patrons of this service sign up to be a research participant. And Cloud Research offers 4 different services: Connect, Prime Panels, Managed Research, and MTurk Toolkit. But today we're just going to talk about Connect and Managed Research. If you do want to learn about Prime Panels and MTurk, you can use this link that's in the middle to learn more about them. So Connect has an online platform that participants log in to where they can see what studies are available for them to complete. With Connect, you're able to census match your participant sample and able to return responses if you don't think that the participant was being thoughtful while completing the study. In those cases, the participant does not get paid, and Connect Research will resample that participant. Managed Research uses the same site as Connect to recruit and enroll participants, but if you have a complicated study such as linking to external sites other than your standard survey sites like Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey, they are able to code and set that up for you. Now, Cloud Research services are really quick. On the right hand, I've inserted a screenshot of their estimated completion times for studies. You can see that for studies that need to recruit 500 individuals, they estimate that data collection will be complete in 1 to 2 hours. And for samples over 5,000, they estimate that the study will be completed in 2 to 3 days, which is mind-blowing to me that they can get all these responses as quick as they can. Next slide, please. On the left here, you can see screenshots of the Connect platform. On the top left, and this is where many of the screening questions are. There are a ton of them that have already been asked by previous researchers, and you can add additional questions within this to find the sample that you want to, the participants that you want to sample. And then on the bottom left, you can see how these studies are presented to participants. So it has the study name, the incentive, how long the study will take, and then how many spots are left in that particular study. Connect Research, or the Connect platform itself, takes many steps to verify that individuals are who they say they are. So an example of one of these steps is that before people can even join the platform, they have to complete all these questions about themselves and just about things in general. And one thing that Cloud Research is looking for is if the participants or if the individual's website is translating into a different language, it'll flag that individual and it won't let them even join the platform. In addition, with Cloud Research, you can require targeted devices. For example, if your study is best completed on a computer, individuals who are on the site on their phone or on a tablet won't be able to start the study. And finally, there is really great reliable follow-up with this platform. You can see again on this screenshot on the very bottom left, this is an Understanding Citizens' Beliefs and Aspirations Part 2. This study in particular was a 3-part study that took place over 3 different weeks. Unfortunately, Cloud Research is not an approved third-party vendor here at Drexel, and so that is something that we hope does get approved and that we have more interest in within Drexel so that it does get approved, because we do love all that they offer and really want to work with them. As far as how you pay both Cloud Research and your participants, so Connect charges researchers 25% of your total incentive as their fee, but there is a free 30-day trial after you sign up. So for example, if you were going to pay your participants a total of $100, so all your participants altogether get $100. Connect would charge $25 as their service fee. Finally, and then if you use managed research, there is a fee on top of that incentive, and that's something that once you tell them what the needs of your research are, they will come to you with a number. And then finally, Cloud Research recommends that you pay participants $7.50 to $10 an hour. Now, again, you look on the left-hand side, many of these studies are only paying $1 or $2, and they're very short surveys, but there's still great engagement with this. So if you have a very short survey, this is on the participant incentive side, is very cost effective. Next slide. This is just a comparison of the different platforms that we've talked about today, our options for targeted recruitment, the cost for the researcher, and the incentives that they recommend, or that how you give participants incentives through their platform.
And then I'll just add a couple things here. Dahlia mentioned that Cloud Research is not an approved third-party vendor at Drexel at this point. And so there is a process before you partner with basically any recruitment platform, even the ones that we've said we are approved for use. You do have to submit a request for third-party risk management review. And so I think with the exception of Research Match, for Qualtrics, BuildClinical, Cloud Research, or any other third party, you do have to go through a specific process. Even if if they are approved third-party vendors such as BuildClinical, you still have to set up your own contract. So this is a really, really important process. And we mentioned that as of the last year, Cloud Research wasn't an approved third-party vendor. They go through our IT department in collaboration with others, go through and assess whether or not this is a safe and secure vendor. And they didn't meet all of those important requirements. And so as they refine their processes, as we perhaps have a better understanding of these platforms, things could change, but I just wanted to add those notes. And then because we were just right at Cloud Research, Sudeth asked, what does 25% of the total incentive mean? And so I just want to back up for Dahlia, if you want to just clarify what the payment structure is.
Yeah. So let's say that you were wanting to recruit and enroll 100 participants, and you were going to pay them $1 each. Your total incentive would be $100. And so Connect would take an additional 25% of that $100. So your total cost that you would pay Connect would be $125. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yep. And then the other thing that I was going to note before we move on to quality control, which is extremely important, is that Dahlia and I have met with Qualtrics, BuildClinical, and Cloud Research extensively when we were trying to understand their processes and having the third-party risk management review completed. And if you have any questions or you want to get a better understanding, all of the three organizations are extremely responsive. And so when you email them, they get back to you. Their customer service is quite good, and they'll go through a tutorial. There's obviously tutorials on their websites and online, but they do. We found that working with them one-on-one was really helpful in helping us understand the platform. Both BuildClinical and Cloud Research were extremely personable. We are working with BuildClinical. We would love to have worked with Cloud Research. The customer care teams over there are, I think, in our opinion, phenomenal. So don't hesitate to reach out. Qualtrics was very responsive as well, but as Dahlia, really well put it, I was like, what is the word I'm trying to describe with our interactions? And she said it was transactional. And so, they're still very responsive, but it's a very large business, and you can kind of tell the difference there.
Yeah, so I've talked quite a bit about needing to verify individuals' identities as you're going through these platforms and utilizing these services. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned before, people will falsify their information so that they qualify for studies, especially ones that are paid. To circumvent this issue, what I did in my dissertation was I called the individuals before they signed consent forms to verify that they were who they said that they were. And then I also cross-referenced information collected during screening and data collection, such as the state where they lived or their zip code. And then I also checked approximate IP addresses. So I recruited individuals living in the US, and any IP address that was outside of the US was a red flag for me. And I went back into my survey and their screening survey and double checked that the information made sense, or that the information was the same between the two. Online studies in particular may be hijacked by individuals who are trying to get compensated multiple times for the same study. We recommend sending unique survey links to participants and having participants enter a participant ID into the survey, and this participant ID is something that you would give them. Finally, we all want to be sure that we're getting quality data with surveys and just intervention studies with data collection. Be sure that you're utilizing attention checks throughout your surveys. These should not be difficult to answer. They should either be where you tell them what you want them to press, or there is one answer that is obviously the correct answer. Next slide. Oh, you're muted.
In summary, hopefully we've clarified how online recruitment platforms work and how they can and perhaps cannot support your research. While we've covered 4 of the most commonly used web-based recruitment platforms, others exist and are used in academic and medical research around the country, such as Prolific. One of our colleagues on the call today mentioned Trial Facts, which was new to me. So there are others that we will all continue to explore, but really important, we have to remember that we need to reach out to third-party risk management for a review. And I believe that the Office of Research and Dr. Ramakrishnan can help sort of facilitate or guide you through that process. Dahlia and I have also gone through that process a lot, and we have our email information on the final slide, and we're happy to help support in any way possible. And then lastly, regardless of the platform that you use, you will need to implement quality assurance methods. Dahlia briefly gave an overview of the method that she's created. I think that it worked really well. We're using it for other studies. And again, that's another thing we're happy to discuss with you if it's of interest to go into greater detail. So thank you so much. And we're happy to field some questions. If other questions arise when you're offline, you have our email addresses, and we're happy to continue the conversation. And feel free to unmute or place your questions in the chat.
Well, a great big round of applause to Brandy-Joe and Dahlia. This was really wonderful. And I am so glad that you put this together, because I think this is going to be a great learning resource for the rest of the college. It's a starting point for us to move forward, especially as students and faculty start to think about incorporating these different strategies into recruitment methods. And I know it's probably been about a year, right, Dahlia, or coming up on a year, where you all were struggling to get moving your research forward, and you tried different venues. So it is a process, and I really want to thank both of you tremendously for your patience to do everything, move through the system, but at the same time, look at everything that you've learned and the great resources that you can provide back to us. And I know that a lot more journals, and even there's opportunities to write up these type of recruitment strategy papers. It's so important because this field is changing. So yeah, thank you. Tremendous.
Yeah, no, thank you for that feedback. You bring up a really important point. There are a number of different publications that compare the different online, like the feasibility of recruiting difficult to reach populations using these different platforms. And it goes, some of the metrics that Dahlia shared, those are what they are including as their data for these papers. And so it is a blossoming field. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, thank you.
And I think it's really important to note that finding research participants, as we all know, can be pretty difficult. The college utilizes many different ways. I know there's a page where on the CNHP website where it shows a list of our ongoing research studies, and sometimes with traditional recruitment methods, you're having to look for people who are also looking to participate in research studies. And so there's that perfect balance of we need people and people are wanting to be part of research. Whereas these online recruitment platforms, especially BuildClinical, it's finding individuals who maybe aren't even thinking about research and participating in studies. And so that's a very unique, not unique, but a little bit of a different population than these traditional recruitment methods.
Great point. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining us. If there are no other questions, you have our email addresses. We're happy to continue the conversation, and we'll hand it back over to you, Darren.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dahlia and Brandy-Joe, for a great presentation. And I guess we'll see you guys at the next Tuesday Topics next week. And I want to see you all there. So great. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.